Raf, I want being a representing a man for Uptown TV. You understand?
Endehu bemedir tihun yalaten terasnen siten zare bedelasnem ikkar belen igna yebedalnen ikkaren demenil awada fetna matagban kakifu adenenen fi mengist yantantanantana hayliya maskam lizlial.
In the name of the African ancestors who began the march of humankind in the womb of Mother Africa, we ask these ancestors to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of the African ancestors who began the march of humankind in the womb of Mother Africa and marched down the Nile, laying the foundations for human civilization and culture, we ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us concepts to their principles and to their moral values. We ask these Africans to spread this culture to the Dogo and to the Akan and to the Yoruba and to the Bankango and to the Zulu. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of the Africans who opened up Africa, opened up the Nile Valley to other cultures and other peoples, and they came in and nurtured themselves on the African greatness. First coming in early were the ancient Hebrews, and they synthesized this culture and produced Judaism. Later coming in were the Christians, and they synthesized this culture and produced Christianity. Coming in were also the Greeks, who took the African culture, synthesized it, and produced Greek civilization. And then later, the Prophet Muhammad, and with the Arabs coming into the Nile Valley, they synthesized the culture and produced Islam. We ask these African ancestors, who as part of their legacy laid the foundations for Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Greek civilization, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask those African ancestors pulled out of Africa, taken to the hells of North America, South America, the Caribbean, maintaining the spirit of African humanity in their hearts and in their minds, and who left us this enormous legacy of struggle. We ask those Africans who resisted enslavement in the villages of Africa, who resisted enslavement in the shores of Africa, who resisted enslavement in those forts and dungeons, who resisted enslavement in the holds of those ships, who resisted enslavement when they arrived on these shores in the New World. We ask these Africans who ran into the highlands of northeast Brazil and established for 100 years the first free republic in the Americas, the Republic of Palmares, and their last great leader, Zumbi, who feared and sacrificed. We ask these Africans who replicated the Brazilian experience and went into the highlands of Jamaica and became the maroon-free communities. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of the Guyanas and Suriname and created free republics of the Suramaka and the Ajuka. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of Georgia and the swamps of Florida and moved with the Seminole Indians and resisted oppression. We ask these Africans who left us a legacy of struggle and resistance, the likes of which no one in the world has, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these Africans who created and laid for us a foundation of struggle and resistance that was passed on generation after generation, that was passed on to Harriet Tubman, who fought her way out of enslavement and became a symbol of freedom for all of us. Similarly, Frederick Douglass and hundreds of thousands of others fought their way out of enslavement. We ask those Africans who went with Boukman, Dessalines, to create the greatest revolutionary experience in the history of the world, the Haitian Revolution, leaving us a legacy, the likes of which no one else has had. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future.
Let us start our class with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Lari Mahashai, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, our Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we bow to all of you. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, great Gurus, receive our love, receive our desire to love you more, to attune our hearts and minds with your great presence. Home, peace.
Jamaica, of course, watching this very closely. I heard the Prime Minister Andrew Holness last night issuing himself coming out to the podium and just putting Jamaica on alert to say that this is out there. We're watching this. We're not quite sure what's going to happen in terms of Jamaica so far, but Jamaica is in the cone. So this is a hurricane watch. Not that the Hurricane Center or the weather people have said, the meteorological service has put Jamaica on a hurricane watch. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we're watching. And for us, it's time to be prepared. As the Prime Minister pointed out last night, because this is expected to be, to develop into a Category 4, and because this looks as if it is coming, and we're not sure what the trajectory is yet in terms of Jamaica itself, that we should be prepared. So get your hurricane kits in place. Make sure that you secure your documents. You have your flashlight, your batteries, your lamp oil. Make sure that you're ready. You know what you need. Tin foods. In Barbados, they're telling people to go out now and get your tin foods and be prepared for, even if it doesn't hit you as a strong hurricane, that there might be, as Mia Motley said in her own words, enough rain. We're looking at with Beryl, this storm developing into a hurricane already and heading to the Windward Islands. And the trajectory of this is that Jamaica is in the cone, right? But you don't know, as the Hurricane Center is saying. No speculation for days 4 and 5. So let's see where this goes. In any case, let us be prepared. Let us be prepared. This looks like a strong one. And from what I'm hearing from all of the forecasts, it is not a turning back situation or a dissipating situation. This is happening. Whether or not Jamaica is going to be hit by this, we do not know. One of the things we want to do is to be ready, just in case. So that is the latest from the really tracking this as something, or identifying this as pretty serious. So, right, this is how it's looking. The UK weather updates, for example, saying the Atlantic hurricane season off in a wild start, with Hurricane Beryl likely to reach major hurricane strength today, and they're putting that out just 28 minutes ago. Moving rapidly west at 21 miles per hour. It is undergoing rapid intensification, and Beryl could be a major Category 4 hurricane before reaching the Caribbean islands. Like for the Caribbean, Barbados, of course, seem to be under hurricane warning. Tropical storm force winds for Tobago. There's having this report coming out of Tobago. All right, so one way or the other, it is worth paying attention to what is coming. One way or the other. We'll keep you updated and let you know. In Kenya, young people, purely organic protest has developed into a revolutionary movement, and there have been gains and losses. Obviously, these young people who just organically through the social media called each other to action and to the streets against draconian taxation measures being implemented by the administration of William Ruto, that this revolutionary movement was successful in large part because William Ruto has come out, he has conceded that this is draconian, that the people's voice matter, and so he says he's not signing of the bill. So they've withdrawn the bill, the financial bill, the taxation bill. And that, though, was preempted by days of protests where young people were tear-gassed, were fired up with water hoses, pink water, and where over 23 people died, some shot to death by the police in Kenya. We're going to come back and talk some more about it. I'm expecting to speak to Alhassan Timothy, a geopolitical scholar and analyst, no stranger to this program. We're standing by for him, not getting him on the phone right now, but we're standing by for him. And so we come back and talk some more about what's happening in Kenya today. Also to look at what really led to the revolutionary movement taking to the streets of Kenya. Nairobi under fire. Parliament occupied, breached. Members of Parliament houses burnt. So many young people killed. And still, they're on the streets. It's a liberation movement. It's a revolutionary movement. Joined now by the millennials, the Gen Xers, and just about everybody. A movement started, a revolutionary patriotic movement by the young people, started by the young people of Kenya. A quick break. To Jamaica, remember that's what we're saying. Not an immediate threat to Jamaica. We are watching this though because of what the trajectory is looking like, because we seem to be in the cone, and usually we watch these things, right? A hurricane develops, we're going to watch that. We're in a very active hurricane season, by the way, so one way or the other, we should be prepared. All right, we're standing by to see if we can make that connection with Alhassan Timothy to talk about Kenya. But in the meantime, just a quick reminder that yesterday marked the 83rd anniversary of the birth of our esteemed ancestor, Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. It's Kwame Ture who encouraged us to unite for black power. Also, what's happening at the National Stadium, Jamaica's national shrine. Please. So we are standing by. Okay, we're still not getting him. All right, great, yeah. So an open letter from the esteemed linguist, author, Pan-African, great African leader, Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o, has written to William Ruto. And let me see if I can quickly read her. The images of your recent state visit to the USA were very disturbing to me and to every patriotic Kenyan. I saw you seated on a chair, grinning, while Biden stood behind you, his face beaming with satisfaction. Why not? He had just announced that you had signed off our beloved Kenya to make it a non-member ally of NATO. In other words, you had agreed to become NATO's errand boy in America's struggle with Russia and China for access to resources of the continent. Ruto, do you know that NATO murdered Muammar Gaddafi so that Libyan oil fields, which Gaddafi had nationalized, would revert to the West. Gaddafi was once a chairman of the African Union, of which Kenya was a founding member. But this other picture was no less disturbing. While you were inside the White House, Haitians were in the streets demonstrating, calling you a slave. Do you know the history of Haiti? Please read The Black Jacobins, the book written by one Jomo Kenyatta, Pan-African ally, C.L.R. James. Haiti, now a black people state, used to be a slave colony of France. But led by Toussaint Louverture, Haiti, the richest colony of its time, fought French slavery, and in 1804 it seized its independence. In USA, slavery was then in full bloom. America did not want its African slaves to emulate Haiti, and it has never forgiven Haiti for that, and thus began the history of America's destabilization of Haiti. Ruto, do you see the irony of your actions? The USA was originally a settler colony, taking over the land that belonged to Native Americans. Just reading the letter from Ngugi wa Thiong'o to William Ruto. And he continues, Ruto, do you see your actions? The USA was originally a settler colony, taking over the land that belonged to the Native Americans. In 1776, the white settlers declared their independence from their English king. But the colonized Native Americans remained colonized. Kenya was equally a British settler colony. The white settlers wanted to have a similar kind of independence, but the Mau Mau, led by Dedan Kimathi, stopped them. Years later, Algeria, Rhodesia, and South Africa would follow the example of Kenya. Thus, the country you now lead was the first to stop the historical trend of white settlers claiming themselves independent, as in America, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. Ruto, you have chosen to betray that history of pride. Ruto, you have chosen to become an agent of the West. Ruto, you have chosen to sell your country cheap. Why? Oh, why? Ngugi wa Thiong'o writing to William Ruto. This is a soundtrack that they're playing. This is the music that they're playing. Raising the salaries of politicians. It's foot on the necks of the people. Kowtowing to the IMF and the World Bank. It's billions of dollars that Kenya is indebted to the world, to the IMF and the World Bank, and the Bretton Woods institutions. It's billions. And they have said to him, take it from the people. But Ruto has been collecting money from the IMF and the World Bank, and there's no accountability to the people of Kenya as to where those monies have gone. And then he has come back to the people of Kenya to say, we have taken all this money from the World Bank and the IMF. And it's a corrupt government that he's running. He takes a plane that was $1.5 million, one trip, $1.5 million US to go look for Biden, to sit down and sell Africa. And you come back empty-handed. You're selling Africa and you come back empty-handed. What does it mean to be a non-NATO ally? Did that not get you anything, William Ruto? That's the question. You come back empty-handed. And one of the things that outraged the people of Kenya, one of the things that really outraged them was the fact that the taxes. You should look at the tax bill when you get a chance. We have been looking at that. So he's taxing bread And he's on the one hand, and on the other hand, he's taxing sanitary napkins. And he's taxing in the middle the diapers. You should see the things that are being taxed. And while one of the most poignant pictures I saw coming out of Kenya was a picture of the demonstrators being tear-gassed and running for their lives. And then the person who is filming points the camera when it calmed down a bit, and they're now standing on top of the road looking down on a golf course. And there are black people down there playing golf. And he says, this is the irony of Kenya, that the rich in Kenya are playing golf while we are demonstrating for our lives. And you see them putting and playing. I've never seen anything like that in my life. But this is the situation in Kenya right now. We're watching it. We're watching it. As it unfolds, we'll let you know. So sorry that we couldn't go live to our geopolitical analyst, but we'll do that next time. We're going to be joined in studio by our next guest this morning, and we're standing by for that. Time on the young people. We did talk about that. Their funerals are ongoing now in Kenya, where they're burying the 19-year-olds and the 20-year-olds and the 18-year-olds. He ordered the police to fire on the peaceful protesters. And we have so far 23 dead up to yesterday. This is ridiculous. But you know, the people are still on the street in Kenya. And that I think, now they're calling, initially they were calling for the bill to be withdrawn. Now they're calling for Ruto to resign. This is what you call some serious levels of escalation that didn't have to get to where it is, but it is where it is. This is what happens under a neoliberal project. The neoliberal agenda does not work for developing countries, not for any country in the Caribbean, and not for any country on the continent of Africa. This is what the people are rising up against. This is what they rose up against in addition to colonialism and neo-colonialism in the Sahel. And this is what they're rising up against in Kenya. They were about to rise up against that in Ghana. Remember, I tell you that. People are going to rise up against this neoliberal agenda across the world. There's no other way to do it. No other way to go but to do this. No other way. Kenya is leading the way, and we're happy for that. If we follow them, we end up in southern Africa. Even if we start in West Africa, for example, the Asafu Yard is something that we know very well in West Africa, right? Especially out of Ghana and so on. And we have Asafu Yard here on the island in Jamaica, in Charlestown, the Charlestown Maroon community. IRFM was a co-opener or the co-founder of the Asafu Yard in Charlestown, and we'll tell you about that in a while, along with Professor Vereen Shepherd and Colonel Lumsden. It is what it is. History is important, and so we have Asafu as a word that speaks to the place where Africans gather for counsel and for ritual and so on. And then you have the wider meaning of the wider word Osafa, which means a black nation. And so that is Bantu, that's coming out of southern Africa. It's interesting because we do not pay attention in our history and here on the island in Jamaica, in our culture, to South Africa when we're dealing with the linguistics, right? We pay more attention to West Africa, and so that we try to locate every single African retention word that we have on the island in West Africa. Nothing wrong with that, but we can always, knowledge increases, right? And we always build up on, the more we know, the more we research, the more we gain. And my own research is showing me that all of these words have their origin, if you're talking about the etymology, out of southern Africa so far. Even if you go Kemet, you can still come forward to southern Africa. And I know you're going to come at me with that because, yeah, one of the most ancient lands But we same one, people move around. And if you go Nigeria, and remember that there was no country called Nigeria. Nigeria developed as a company, as an organization. And I don't mean that tongue in the cheek, I mean that literally. Like I said, IRFM is a company, Nigeria was a company. It developed that way, that's what they created. And so that entire region of West Africa, which includes Nigeria, Benin and so on. We're looking at the Igbo people. And the Igbo people traces their ancestry to Southern Africa and also to Egypt. Just saying. So let's leave that there. So Osafa. Good morning, Osafa Powell. So Osafa means a black nation. Anyway, we're going to go to my next very special guest in the studio. Happy as usual all the time to welcome this gentleman in the studio. I count him as a friend, and he's a politician. But and Bob Marley said, "Oh God, but me not asking for doing no favor, don't it?" All right, so we're here with my very special guest in the studio, Mayor of St. Ann's Bay, Michael Belnavis, councillor for the Oterious Division, and also a businessman. He was a businessman long before he was any of the other things, right, Michael?
Absolutely, 32 years now, right here in Ochi.
Right. I think you gave us our first phones here at IRFM.
That's right.
All right, so, but you went into politics early, right?
Yes.
What made you though? Although this is not that kind of interview, but remind us, what made you go in, and when did you?
I started way back in 95, and actually ran in 97 as a member of parliament. I was the 120 candidates. Andrew Holness, our current prime minister, was the youngest, and I was the third youngest candidate back then. So I started out as I always say that I was a little boy doing big man thing.
Yes.
Thing, because that's the age. But I got involved in business young, politics young, and just really tried to juggle both right throughout the years. So I've always
a highly respected businessman in Oterious here. For those who know you from the early 90s, this is how we know you. As a highly respected businessman. It wasn't strange that you had gone into politics, becoming an MP, right? But now a mayor, and also someone who has a very serious concern and passion for the people of St. Ann, but I know the people of Jamaica. Generally, I've had many discussions with you. I've seen your work, and this is why I'm saying all of what I'm saying. How difficult has it been for you, because now you're mayor, since you have gone back into the seat, to begin to realize your mandate?
Cabo, it's been a challenge. One of the things that we want to see, and I've always said that I need to ensure that I get back the second term, because there's so many unfinished business out there. Oterious in particular. I mean, I'm mayor for the entire parish, but I'm councillor for Oterious, so I want to kind of start here. There's a baby Chris there. But I have a passion to see. Oterious is where I live, work, and do business. I want to see Oterious really emerge as not only the tourism town that it really is, but really chart the course for new horizons in the town itself. So first of all, the look and feel of the town, we have to ensure that there's a certain look and feel, certain things that we deal with in terms of the homeless, ensure that there's a management team in place to just ensure that things work within the town. The various agencies that are there, someone who can come and just pull the various agencies together and get things done. Because, in government, a lot of time, one agency doesn't know exactly what the other one is doing, and they kind of conflict. And it's important to collate all the varying groups so you have one common objective, one common goal, and ensure that things get done. And, I
want to come back to looking at Oterious as a tourism town. When I came to Oterious to work as a student, I was going to high school and at the same time working at JBC Radio Northeast. I wore a straw hat because we did hear from Wishart, where they say a tourist town, so you come, you must dress like a tourist. So we did wear a straw hat. So we understand that this is what it has been forever, right? But how is it developing, and what kind of tourism are we developing? So I'll come back to that. But I want, first of all, to look at When you were running recently in the local government elections, there are certain things you laid out that you said you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what are your priorities now as far as those things are concerned?
Well, first of all, we need to have a certain look and feel within the town, and we've done several cleanup measures put in place, things to deal with just the cleanup of the town, the transportation centers, the markets, just the cemeteries and so on. We've done all of that so far, but guess what? There's so much challenges with that, because as you clean up today, tomorrow is like you haven't done anything. Even Mother Nature itself is bad for us in a sense, because when we actually did a complete cleanup of cutting of the cemetery, and by the following month it has grown up. So it requires so much consistency.
And that's what I was going to get to, because isn't the parish council responsible for ensuring that these things are almost they make themselves happen, so that you have people in place who they are responsible for cutting the cemetery, say every 2 weeks. Why do we have to wait until it grew up all over again? What's the thinking behind that?
All right. I have somebody there's a drain that runs, it's not a drain, it's a river actually, running through the town. It meanders through the town. It goes by Moonpies, and it comes from out by it's a come out from
that drain that's all the way up to Taj Mahal in there?
Yes. And it meanders through the town.
That's the same one we see running where Faces and Fingers used to be right across the bridge that goes under there.
Right, that same right. Mm-hmm. And the issue is that we have to have someone in there full time. So I have 2 individuals in there full time. All I do is just rake up the bottles and so on, because it's a constant battle preventing people from throwing garbage in that. So we have a fight with if you want to say the residents, with the garbage disposal. Mm-hmm. So if you notice, it's not an issue right now, because it requires full-time maintenance.
Doesn't this present an opportunity for you under your leadership to shift the paradigm? Because I think that in Jamaica, and especially when you go into the urban areas, we don't see that Jamaicans are consciously aware of how they dispose of garbage. So probably we need a public education campaign, but in addition to the public education campaign, there must be areas provided for garbage disposal.
Well, we have, you see when we cut the verges, the bottles and plastics and so on that are just hidden under the grass when it grows up. So when you cut them, it's exposed, and you realize that, gosh, this is done by thousands of people. Because the amount of garbage that are strewn along the roadsides, it's not 1 or 2.
Isn't an opportunity for you, though, Mr. Belnavis? Isn't that an opportunity for you to lead on this? Because this is not just a Otrius thing, a St. Ann thing. This is a Jamaica national problem. Mm-hmm. And part of it, I think, is that we're not Jamaicans. We're not nasty people, but somehow the disposal of garbage is done in such a haphazard, ad hoc kind of way that it makes us, really nasty, because we are not thinking. I think there was an ad when I was growing up, about garbage disposal, and it seemed to me that it worked that time. People my age probably remember that used to be on television. I think that we have lost that kind of a thinking where we ensure that it becomes part of a culture in terms of how people dispose of their garbage. So you understand why you can't block up the drain. And although you see the result of it when rain fall, but there is a serious public education campaign on that. And I think that you have a great platform to lead on this, don't you think?
Well, we have been trying to, because if you recognize that we had 100 receptacles installed in the town. And Cabo, can I tell you? You have to look hard to find those receptacles now. I had them bolted down.
Oh, them teeth them?
Yeah, listen. These are nice receptacles that we imported, and I got them from the Tourism Enhancement Fund. and TP Deco. I got them installed, bolted down, because I figured you couldn't just have them there. And I got the guys that get the reportable generators, and we bolted them down. And within a year, 90% of them just disappeared. You can still see the evidence of the bolt with the metal on the ground. They just wrenched them off. And that's the challenge. So, it's a...
I know it's a challenge, and this is why I'm saying that it's also an opportunity. Because in every challenge is an opportunity to lead, because it can't continue. So so what is it? What's the end game?
All right, the solution has to be, as far as I'm concerned, continuous activity. Putting someone in the drains full time, having them sweep full time. Today, right after I leave here, we're going to go into the town of Ocho Rios, and we're going to be taking up all those carts that are tarpaulin over. We went ahead and notified the folks, and those who...
All those what, cars?
Carts. Those wooden carts with the tarpaulins over them. They're strewn all over the town. There's about 25 of them.
People cart them?
Yes.
Yes. So why? So have you warned the people that...
Yes.
So isn't this what the ordinary young or not so young people are using to make a living in the town? Yes,
but this is what we're saying. The market... Use the market, because when you go into the market, we have installed a new bathroom since I've been there. We've fixed up the entire car park by re-asphalting it. We have allowed for people to park, so you can come into the market and park. Before it was if you recall what it used to look like. So you now have an opportunity to come in, shop, and you get goods cheaper in the market because there's no
so you're
DCP.
saying you're putting people back to, that's the market at the clock, right?
Yes.
You're saying we have enough space in the market. You have enough space in that market?
Absolutely.
So did you expand it since recently?
What happened in Cabo, they use the market as a storeroom, and then the market is a storeroom, and they vend on the road. Okay. That's a paradigm that we deal with.
So you're trying to say to people, come into the market.
Right.
And so let me just say one thing to our listeners. If you have a cart on the road with your pawn in the over, the mayor said them come take up the cards. We're not going to mash up the cards together.
No, absolutely not. We carry it to the parish council and pay a fee, and then it's a cat and mouse game. Have you been discussing this with the people? I know you are a man of Ocho Rios. The people know you. You know the people. Yeah. What kind of feel are you getting from them regarding this? It's kind of twofold. Everybody, listen, the people of Ocho Rios want to see a clean Ocho Rios. There's no two ways about that. Most of the vendors that you see in the town are not from Ocho Rios. They're from Spanish Town, St. Elizabeth, all over. They come into the town and they do their thing, leave the garbage, and they're gone. And people are kind of resent that, so they want me to clean the town and make the town into a nice tourism town.
All right. And if you're coming from out of town and you're vending in Ocho Rios, then work with the protocol. But I remember what you did with the transportation center, and that was painful. But it's gone back now to a pre that. In other words, we see taxes everywhere same way. So is this also something that has to be dealt with, considering the congestion in the town?
Oh, absolutely. That's my next target. What I've learned is that you can't do everything one time. So what I'm doing now is dealing with the vending situation. Right after that, we're going to deal with the transportation issue. We're going to extend the time, and we're doing some remedial work in the transportation center first, because you can't, but I'm of the opinion that you have to make sure there's lighting, there's security, there is a comfortable environment for you to do some shelters installed so people don't stand in the sun, things of that nature. I planted some almond trees, kind of natural. They're all grown up now, so that will give a nice shade, better than the metal heated stuff. And so you have to fix the place up first, then you start encouraging the people to use the transportation centers.
All right, let me take a quick break and come on. St. Anne's Bay, councillor for the Ocho Rios Division, businessman, just looking at St. Anne's Bay, St. Anne, Ocho Rios, and some Brownstone. What are the areas? Some of the areas that as mayor that is it all of St. Anne or just St. Anne?
All of St. Anne. You're mayor for St. Anne's Bay, but your responsibility is entire parish of St. Anne, from Monique all the way down through Ocho Rios, Brownstone, St. Anne's Bay, to Alexandria, And, the rural part of St. Ann and the urban part of St. Ann.
Right. And that's interesting, because in the urban parts of St. Ann, the focus is on tourism. Yes. In the rural parts of St. Ann are where a lot of the tourism sites are.
Yes. Like Bob Marley.
Yeah, 9 miles and up in those areas where you have to go through all prickly pole and so on.
Right.
Where people have...
You've probably never heard of there, but...
I mean, you listen, it is up in the skies. Yes. You commensurate with the gods when you're up there, so... Right, so what this presents for you and for the Member of Parliament, it's really a situation where equity, I think, would be critical in terms of how the people in the rural area benefit from what seems to be St. Ann's number one product, which is tourism. So what are your plans to balance that? Because you have issues of water, you have issues of inequity, you have issues of access to the beaches, for example, we're coming to that.
Yes.
And just equity in terms of the access to the tourism product itself.
Well, there's agriculture is a big product in St. Ann, as well as mining and so on. So it's a diverse economy. I mean, we talk about tourism as the panacea, but there's a good part of our gross national product comes from agriculture in St. Ann. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily orchards per se, but in the hills of St. Ann, that agriculture goes on, and of course, mining through Discovery Bay and so on, through bauxite, things of that nature. And there's also marl and so on, exporting of marl and things. So
mining has proven to be not a panacea, but for the people, it's a bane of their existence. Mining in St. Ann has been, for the people of St. Ann, a most cruel process.
Yes, absolutely, because that mining used to be a really significant part of the earnings of the parish, with Kaiser, bauxite and so on, particularly for people up in Claremont and Brownstown and so on. But that has somewhat shrunk in recent years, and it still goes on in Discovery Bay, Runaway Bay side, but certainly it's a significant.
Well, people are driven off their land. People are, when I say driven off, literally,
bauxite mining.
For bauxite mining.
I think it's a dislocation.
It's a good word. Yeah. But driven off is more really what happens.
Yeah.
That they're chased off their land, they're driven off their land, and are hustled into other areas away from the connection to where some of them grew up, born and grew up, etc. And have been raising their families. And not only that, we have a situation now where some of these lands that people have been driven off, that they say that, they're going to go through a process of, what do you call it again, when once a mining
relocation,
reclamation of the land.
Yeah, put it back to what it used to be.
Right.
Yeah.
That these people are not being returned. That the process, whether it's happening or not, I don't know, but people are not being returned. The land is not being returned to the people. Do you know about that?
Yes, in certain parts that is true, and in certain parts they have been returned after the. But you can understand it just.
No.
I'm not justifying the situation. All I'm saying is that once you get relocated and you get set up in another area, to go back to where you were and get relocated back again, there's the logistics of that, and
No, but let the people determine whether or not the logistics can work for them. Mm-hmm. Do what it is that you say you were going to do, which is to ensure that there's a process of a reclamation of the word. Right. There's a word them use to say them, kind of get over time plant trees or some stuff or the other, and so that people can get back their land.
Right.
But I know for sure, because this is happening in my family, that the lands are not being returned.
Well, quite honestly, then you should really ensure that your land because then I submit citizen action in that arena, because quite honestly, if you get dislocated and you're not getting sent back, then it's a problem. And I would lead that charge, because I would not, as mayor, allow for something like that to happen under my charge anyway, because you have to take care of the people that are there. If bauxite company comes in and they want to they say that bauxite is there, then the people need to benefit from it, not just the country, the people that are indigenous to the area. Remember too, in a lot of these places, your great-grandmother, your mother, and so on are buried there, because, family plots are a big thing in rural St. Anne. So, you have that emotional attachment to the land. People farm there, people grow up there, people live there. So it's an attachment. There has to be an economic.
Every time I talk to you, I get this from I hear the empathy. I know you know what is happening, and you normally articulate what we're saying. So sometimes it doesn't make no sense to interview you because you know exactly what is happening. What we're not seeing is a change. Knowing what you know, and I know you're the mayor with not you don't have the ultimate power, but obviously you have influence.
Sure.
So you can influence this process. Are you influencing this process? Or are you about to look at it?
Well, no, we have been looking at it because whenever it comes up in the council, the funny thing is that we have to give the final sign-off invariably because we are the ultimate sign-off when it comes to many things, whether it be housing, development, things of that nature. Even though central government can dictate, we have to sign off, even if they're dictating.
Yeah. Okay, it still has to come back to the council.
Yes.
And
so we have a say, and quite honestly, the councillors there are pretty militant with that, particularly. I know Ron Davidson up in the hills there of St. Anne and Wickham. They are advocating because many times the dislocation they're not for. So a lot of times we're battling with the bauxite companies ourselves to say, look, there's a pushback. Now, we recognize there has to be bauxite mining because it's part of our generation of wealth.
But it doesn't have to be. There's no wealth. All the research has shown that the wealth that Jamaica talks about getting from bauxite, that is not true. It is not true. And there's a lot of research coming out of the different organizations, the Windsor and other organizations, that show that clearly. Mm-hmm. So I think even that argument is spurious. It don't even work anymore.
Well, there's probably some truth to that because we're still a third world country and we've been mining bauxite from the 50s, and we haven't really seen where, even in these areas, quite honestly, Kabu, up in the hills of St. Anne, where bauxite mining is complete, and they've mined out all the bauxite and done some reclamation because, sometimes it's not even done properly. The people there aren't really better off. You don't see the benefits of it. And I agree with you. There really should be a study. As you said, there's a study. I was not aware of it, but you can see it, just to look and feel of what is happening. The bauxite people come in, they mine, and then, I personally don't see where
yes, and I'm just gonna
benefits the people to the point where you can say, boy, our lives have been better because of bauxite. So it's something that we should be looking into.
Yes.
As a people.
Well, we're still fighting for and you're the first politician that I've heard within the ruling administration come out and say what you just said.
Yeah. Well, I'm
usually hear that from the opposition.
No, but I say it as I see it, and I'm not into plaster things politics. Over and so on. And I believe that I'm here to serve the people, and as I see it, and that's why they put me as second term mayor and so on, because I defend the people and the people's rights, and I stand up for that. It don't make sense to plaster things over and so on. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. And if you can try and do something about it, try and do something about it. I believe we need bauxite and so on because it's another item, and I know mining is a big part of our gross national product. But I don't see where it's physically benefiting the people who have been dislocated in the areas, because they'll tell you that it is, yes, they've been relocated and get a house somewhere and so on. But there's a but. And I don't see
because the most impoverished areas
are the
bauxite mining areas.
Yeah. You see, you drive through parts of, when you go into the hills, they said Prickly Pole and so on. There are so many places in St. Anne I didn't even know existed until I became mayor. Because you go into some of these areas and districts, and the roads are bad because it's just a small area and so on, and they get relocated to other areas, and there's a, I said they get detached from their areas, and I personally wouldn't want to be in that situation. you know. But
so this is something then that is on your decks. It's something that you are working on, and
Yes.
I just say to the groups that have done the research and have been having conversations with government on this, successive governments, that here is Mayor Belnavis, who is saying that he agrees with a lot of what we're saying. He hasn't seen the research, so please rope him in.
yeah, I love to see what the
Yes.
numbers are, because
Yes.
as you know, the numbers are what speak, and the numbers determine how you.
The Councillor for the Outre Division and businessman. But we're not hear you advertising on area again. Hold on, go.
Yeah, but we'll be doing something, because we plan to do a monthly. It's not advertising, it's really just letting people know exactly what we're doing in the municipal corporation. And as you know, the work that we do, business-wise, we do it through the various companies that we represent, such as Western Union and Digicel and so on. So they're doing their thing.
All right, great.
Thanks for the plug.
Yes. So, I want to go to continue the conversation we're having, but I just time. So we're looking at different things, and hopefully one of these days you can come in for the 4 hours and we have a conversation. We'll open the phone lines and have the people asking you direct questions.
Yeah, no, I love that.
You'd mentioned drains earlier, and I know that one of the last massive shows that we had for at James Avenue there. That the rain fell, and and we had some serious flooding because of the drains. So for Jack Ruby, that was a massive Jack Ruby show.
Right, yeah.
Are those drains now fixed? I mean, what's causing that problem, by the way?
That drain, we changed the name to Jack Ruby.
Jack Ruby.
A big thing.
And we did that, don't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, James Avenue.
Yeah, Jack
so
Ruby
we said
Avenue.
that we recognize the whole, sound system thing back in the day, and so you have to be a kind of oldie like me, you know.
Of course, yeah.
But the drains, I mean, that particular drain is a soakaway. It's not a drain, it's a earth soakaway, and it was built that way. So what we try to do is every couple months we clear it to ensure that the water runs into that drain. The road is designed to run into that soakaway. So, so it
but
rains.
It's not working.
It works because, when it rains hard, the water accumulates there, but it runs away quickly. So within half an hour, so the water is gone.
But it seems to me as if there's some serious drainage problem on Jack Ruby Avenue, though. Yes.
That's that because there's a sink there. Whoever designed it did a poor job, because and I think it wasn't really designed. If you remember, it was an avenue where people lived, and it kind of became commercial.
Right.
So I think in building the buildings, they kind of raised the where the buildings are and left the road, so the road now is below the level of the.
So you have to lift the road.
So the road needs to be lifted from the top all the way to the bottom, and then there's another issue now where Moon Palace has taken up that entire section there. So you'd have to, but it can be done. It can be done. We did it in.
Is it a consideration? Is it a priority?
I would say it's a priority, but I can make it a priority, but it's going to take a lot of money, and I have to get some support from the same business folks down there. And because you've insisted on it, I'm going to make it a priority for you.
Please.
Okay, so, Kabu, yeah.
Well,
you can say that it's your
all right, okay.
intervention that has caused it.
All right.
Yes.
But you know what I want you to make a priority of is what you promised me last time when you were here just ahead of the elections, which is access to the beaches.
Yes.
In St. Anne.
Absolutely.
Let us start with St. Anne. Yes. Michael Belnavis.
This is,
you know that this is bad. This is bad.
It is bad. I even said that, but I've got buy a piece of land because my children probably wouldn't have a beach to go to when they get older.
That is how bad it is, you know.
It is that
and
bad.
It is not. It sounds like a joke, but it is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
So what can you do from a seat that you're sitting in? How can you affect and impact the thinking of government on what is happening, and how can we reclaim and regain access to so many of those areas that are closed off from us?
Well, let us look at what is available. Currently, Little Duns River we toured with the Prime Minister just last week, and he has assured us that this is going to be redeveloped with sanitary conveniences and so on. So I said, I'm going to put that into my lap. I'm hoping they do. Yes. And I'm pushing for that because I have a nice vision for there to make it free public bleach with a nice waterfall, free, because you must have access. And the place can be maintained from other sources. You don't have to. It can be from the people who you give their vending and so on. You charge them and you pay for the sanitary convenience. In other words, you can make a whole ecosystem out of there. There are some other.
So you're saying that this is a decision that has been taken. This area is going to be redeveloped, and the plans for it is to be a free beach to the public, and you talk about a whole ecosystem and so on.
That is correct. With sanitary conveniences.
What's the timeline on that?
Very soon, because I'm pushing to have that done. I would love to have it done by the end of the year. That soon, because where it is currently, it's not sustainable.
What about how it is being opened up? Now
2 days a week, not sustainable. And you don't have the sanitary conveniences. It's just there. It's become a haven for criminals and so on. And
you have to stop saying that. You see it a haven for criminals. How is it different from anywhere else with that in Ocho Rios?
Well,
because I've been to Little Duns River, nobody not criminalizing.
They were charging. They were charging to go in. People are calling me and say, "Boy, Mayor, to go in."
But we understood that there was no agency who was responsible for cleaning up and so on. So the people who were there ensuring that they maintained it were asking for that at the gate. And I don't agree with them, I'm just saying that was the context. It's just like when you drive on the road and you see the people might patch the street.
Right.
And they tell you, give me your money now, and because you're not going to use it.
But that is just an extortion.
Right. So here's the situation.
Yes.
This happens all across Jamaica, where there is no agency that has taken responsibility. What I think people are fearing is that there is a plan afoot by the UDC or the Municipal Council or TPD or someone to rip that Little Duns River from under the feet of the people of Ocho Rios and the people of St. Anne.
Not under my cabinet.
Yes, Bruce Golding. Yes, Mr. Bruce Golding. All right. You say not
while I'm there. That will never happen because, the first time that when I first went to Brownstown in 1995, I led the first water riot.
Oh, you led the first water riot?
Because it was, my son got sick and I was there and I got tired of bathing in bath pan and so on. So this can't work. And, it's that still exists up to now because it's been on and off. And, Matthew Samuda went into Menard and put a whole new well up there. And I believe that things have really gotten better in Brownstown. So
this happened recently?
Yeah, just recently.
With the well in Menard?
Yeah.
Because I know Brownstown has always had a water problem.
Perennial.
Right.
And I've lived it. And it's not nice. The bath pan thing can't work.
So the well has made a difference, you're saying?
Yeah.
More people. So which areas now have water constantly?
No, it'll service Menard right into the town itself.
All the way back into the town.
Right. So that pumping system and the well will create more volume and more consistency.
What about areas like Benin and so on, up the hill?
No, to serve there also, right through the entire town and the areas off of Brownstown.
Okay.
But it's not just Brownstown. I mean, even in Pimento Walk, we installed a pump there that's servicing that area, and there are areas of Hilltop and by Spring Peace and even up in Snow Hill where they're getting water now, which they didn't get water before. And it's been areas that we've brought water to. And it's great all over there, installing new pumps and so on. So all the profit that Water Commission is making is going into pumps. Which is
this is critical, and I'm glad that you're. I'm happy to hear that you're prioritizing water in St. Anne.
Yes.
That has been a serious issue in some of the areas like Alexandria, in parts of Brownstown, some of the rural areas that you're talking about now. So you're looking at covering St. Anne with piped water.
With piped water, and and the thing about St. Anne, it's a big parish. It's the largest parish and very hilly. So where there's no water, I mean, water is everywhere in Jamaica, even St. Anne, all over. But guess what? It's the access to the water, you know.
All right, let's come back to the
water.
beaches quickly. So you identify Little Duns River, and that's good news coming from you about Little Duns River. You're talking about towards the end of the year. We're already in July, end of June this, and you're saying we hope to see Little Duns River return to the people of Jamaica fully by the end of this year.
Yes.
And properly functioning infrastructure in place.
Yeah.
What about other access though? Because so much has been lost, and along the way to access to so many of these beaches.
Well, there's Priory Beach. That's slated for major development.
And that's going to be open to the people?
Yes, absolutely.
But no, there's an issue there.
There's an issue. I'm not sure that one is going to be fully 100% free.
But let's just say that it is, even if it's not free,
sure
but reasonable.
But very, 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 like $100, $200 type of thing.
Yeah.
But
because it can't be like Discover Bay. That's,
the Flavors.
No, I mean
Runaway Bay.
The beach.
You talk, which beach you're referring to? Discovery Bay.
In front of Boundstone, that's all. Runaway Bay. Puerto Seco.
Right.
It can't be a Puerto Seco.
Oh, no, Puerto Seco is good and bad in that the infrastructure is really nice. And they fix up the beach. A lot of money has been spent.
But it's nice for who can afford it. I have never been there because I cannot afford it. If I'm going, it's going to be me alone. And because I can't carry my family. I cannot afford Puerto Seco, and I'm not going like I can afford it. Now, I know that most Jamaicans cannot afford it. So it's nice, but not for us. Not for we the people.
Well, that particular situation is not this template that I'm looking for. I am not looking to see if we have one individual who can put in resources either than charge a big money and make it into a tourism thing. That is not what I'm thinking of. That has gone through the gate, and that is a tourist attraction. And a
you mean there's no coming back? There's no way to say
infrastructure is in place already, and there's a lease in place, so that one look like it's gone. So, but we can use this as a template.
Michael Belnavis, I'm going to say something to you now. You see this. The extent to which people are losing access to green spaces and to the beaches and so on in Jamaica. It is very serious, you know. This is not a joke, you know.
No, I agree with you. That's why we have to find other places and ensure that the access is in the interest of the people. Because the entire coastline has access. Because you can make a beach. Because even by Little Duns River, the beach itself is not nice. But guess what? We're going to have to excavate and create a nice beach also. So it's not just putting in infrastructure as toilets and...
But do you realize that Little Duns River is the people's response to Big Duns River? Is the people's response to not being able to access... They cannot pay for Big Duns River, you know. Well, that's why this Little Duns River became so popular among the people.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Although there's a concessionary price that locals pay at Big Duns River.
I cannot afford it. I've been up there a few times, and you have your count of who go in. Who go last time cannot go in this time. Well, and you're saying, all right, you waiting at the car, you going back. This is what you have to do if you go with 5 people. You have to count off 3.
I agree with you, because it might sound this is $500, but guess what? If you're a fiver, it's $2.5.
Exactly. And you don't buy food.
Right? You don't buy KFC yet. You don't buy your drinks and so on and so on. So buy that gas.
What's the minimum wage?
Minimum wage, I think 13, 14,000, 15,000 now.
All right.
Yeah.
And what your family afford for going a Big Duns River?
Yeah, it's a week's pay by the time you finish with it. Yeah. You're right to say.
It's a point I'm making.
It has to be the people's set up. That's why I'm insisting that Little Duns River is free.
And all right, so I hear you on the Little Duns River. We're going to hold you to this.
Yes, but even by Orchards Bay Beach, that has been at $200 for the longest while, and I was chairman of SADCO, where they wanted to raise it, and I made a big stink about it because I said, absolutely not. Because it has to, even though it's, people say, oh, it's only $200, but guess what? As you're right, they say, $200 if it's $5 for you.
Yes, I mean,
right?
yeah,
you know, and then you have to buy your food, this and that, and so on. So it adds up. It becomes a very expensive proposition. So, you know, it's right there. It's for the people.
Yes.
You know.
So you're saying all right, so I hear the last time you were here, you said those that have been lost already are lost to us. I heard you say that, right?
Yes.
But one of the things you said at the time is that because we're on the coast, that there are many other areas that can be developed.
Yes.
In other words, you can literally make new beaches.
Right. Well, hotels do it. The hotels do it.
The hotels do it.
Yeah, because you see them, they put a hotel on that. Look at the coastline, and before you know it, it's like, whoa.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it takes a lot of money to do it, but it can be done, and it can be done in collaboration with. So you can get a public-private partnership to work.
I don't mind the public-private partnership, you know, if the public-private partnership is in the interest of the people.
Right. It has to be in the interest of the people. So in other words, and I know Shaheen spoke about it a lot, you know, to ensure that the people benefit from these type of decisions.
And this is the thing I'm trying to say in this space that people curse me all the time and put me, you know, in one political camp. The point that I try to make in this space is that the members of parliament over time in St. Anne have been pretty different to many other MPs across the island, because there has been for them an understanding of the product, the tourism product, and the people and the need for equity. The only thing is that we hear this coming from so many. Shaheen Robinson had made it her priority to ensure that the people did not lose access to the beaches and that they benefited from the tourism product.
Right.
That was her priority. We seem to be backtracking on that. There's a serious backtracking on that. And I'm very concerned about it. In the last few years since Shaheen's death, Michael Belnavis, you know this.
Yes.
We have lost more access in St. Anne than in the 15 years before that. Since Shaheen's death.
Yeah. Well, that's true, because some of the products have become hotelized.
But they were always being hotelized while Shaheen was alive. Why was it different with her as opposed to what we're seeing now?
Okay, there has to be a concerted effort to reclaim, redevelop these areas that are and slate them for the public use. And there hasn't been anybody fighting for that arena in recent times since Shaheen is dead. But it's something that I will have to ensure that I champion with that, because I've been championing it with Shaheen all along.
Yes, I know.
I have been there.
I know.
I was there before Shaheen, actually.
But I know,
right.
And this is I know this very well.
So something that will continue under my stewardship and my leadership.
You're promising us that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's something that I said it to you. That I said to my wife, I said, you know, we try to hold like a piece, because the way this thing is going, if we want anything, this other sea. We have to, and you know, it's not only for the sea, it's for the rivers too.
It's for the rivers too.
Yeah, because
how come we're losing the rivers?
Well,
how come we're losing access to the rivers? Michael Belnavis?
Well, people kind of find their little access, you know. Most of the rivers are private stretches, because you find.
But they weren't always private stretches. People acquire them. Blue Hole, for example.
Took the words out of my mouth. Blue Hole has been acquired.
But we lost Blue Hole in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, because Blue Hole is pretty much government, because it's all government lands on both sides invariably.
Then how come we lost it in the middle of COVID?
And people have been just capturing it and doing their own thing and so on, and the government has come in and tried to regularize it. You
mean to privatize it?
Well, Yes, you could say that. Because,
which is different from regularizing.
Right, well, they're saying that, since you've been doing your thing, I don't agree with that. Since you've been doing your own thing there, you captured it, we regularize it, and then, you control that and you control that. And to me, it looks like a big extortion thing, because, first of all, you have to pay to go in, even if you just want to put your foot in the water, right? Or they have to pay. They're saying they have to maintain the place and, stuff like that. So
Let me ask you a question, Mayor Belnavis. Is there a way, I understand laws and regulations and rules and so on, but is there a way that the municipal councils can develop their sub-laws or sub-regulations regarding access to beaches and rivers and so on? Is there something that can be done at that level? I know there are wider laws on the book, which there seem to be a bigger fight. Some of those cases are even in court now through JABEM. But is there a way that, say, the municipal council that you lead can say, all right, here is a whatever you call it, a law, regulation that will prevent any other beach being taken from the people, or that will make whatever that bigger law that says that beach management law that says you don't have no access to the you don't have access. Guaranteed access to the beaches. Is there a way that the municipal council? Well,
we can do a resolution, but we don't make laws. We implement the laws. So
what would the resolution look like?
You essentially say what you think you want to say, and a resolution to say at the very end that we'd like to have this done in a certain way and sent off to the central government. And they look at it and see if it's something that's worth looking at. But that.
So can't you do that?
Yeah, of course you can do that.
So why don't you do that?
Well, Cabo.
Yes, Michael.
You have that's priority number 2, right?
I would make that priority number 1.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that, and I'll ask you to help me draft that resolution. I
will be very willing to do so.
Yes, because it will make I think it will make a difference. No, it will be a fight. Because, there are many people that have different agendas, and people have their...
Well, we're willing to stand up and fight with you.
So that's going to be a fight.
We and the people of St. Anne, we are willing to stand up and fight with you.
That has to happen, because we have to make the beaches accessible.
Yes.
And if not free, because every one of them can't be free, because some are already charging a couple of $100,
yes.
But maintain that even despite inflation. So it be subsidized by the entities. I know UDC is a big subsidizer, but they get the money from Duns River Falls. Mm-hmm. So they can afford to subsidize because they take care of the parks and so on. Mm-hmm. That is a subsidy. Mm-hmm. So things like that, there are costs associated where, and we have universal health care subsidized by government. We've subsidized schools and so on. We're a socialist country, whether you like it or not.
Exactly.
So that's part of this.
We're a socialist country that was going down a neoliberal path, and the two things cannot work.
Yeah.
So all right, so we'll talk some more about that. The other thing I want to ask you is about, and we're almost out of time, just like a minute, but I really wanted to talk about the plans for Marcus Garvey, Molimu Marcus Messiah Garvey this year from the Municipal Council, and also to quickly look at what's happening with the home, the childhood home of Molimu.
Well, the Prime Minister came and handed over the house to the family. I think there's one sister that is still up in arms about the whole thing, but the place, I spoke to Minister Grange just last night on it, because she called me and said that she really wants to put it on a priority listing right now. It is time to look at redeveloping the homestead, and so I know that is coming. And Mr. Grange is passionate about it. So I'm really, I don't want to make an announcement for the minister, because that's her job and her thunder. But I know that is coming, so that is like a preview.
So we should be hearing something very soon.
Yes, as far as that is concerned.
I know a lot of work has gone into
getting the whole thing to a point.
Yes,
yeah, because and it's going to be a great tourist attraction. It's going to be a great historical site. Both school children can come and really see and experience the whole Marcus Garvey thing. And it's part of the learning process, because when you come, you get to experience his contribution to mankind and Jamaica as a whole. It's a fantastic place to go and place.
So we are to expect an announcement from Minister Grange this year.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's. I don't want to steal her thunder, because it's her thing to do. But I know that she has reached out to me, and coincidentally, and I'm leaving that one to her. But she's definitely committed to it. I've spoken to her, and she is committed to it.
All right, so let us see what happens.
Yes.
Then along the way, the event is coming up on his birthday, on Walamu's birthday.
And something that we always do by his statue, and that will happen. I'm hoping IRFM will be there again.
I'm sure. I noticed you no longer invite me to speak from the last time I come there, and I spoke, and no vex with me.
No, man.
Nobody invited me to speak anymore.
Really?
Yes.
No, but I'm inviting you this year.
Well, yes, but
I'm inviting you this year.
Because we write my speech already, so come on the podium.
Yes, come on. I'll make sure you come, because you always listen. Sometimes everybody can't be a yes man, right?
Right, so I'll be
diverting.
I'll be back, and I'll come in with my speech.
Yes.
Okay, no, but seriously though, so this is going to be on the 19th, the event at the usual place, at the library. And
St. Anne's Bay.
And St. Anne's Bay, so we're marking that down. I suppose the plans, we hear more about the plans, because you don't know if you walk with anything today.
It's very homogenous in terms of the whole municipal corporation do their thing.
Yes.
Right. They have this. It's a ceremony, and they usually have IRFM there, and to talk about Marcus Messiah Garvey in terms of his accomplishments and his greatness as a national hero, and as a person that has led the whole charge with black empowerment. So it's great. We have the kids there from the various schools, performances by the kids. It's a great time. I'm there every year. I think I think your perspective is always good, because you're the only one that I know of that champion the cause nationally on the radio. So you're to be respected for that, and I personally appreciate that.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you for coming in into the studio all the time and answering a call. Quickly, a listener is saying the municipal council approves the permits for the building of hotels and so on. And so when you talk about hotels making the beaches, literally capturing the beaches, that could be tied to whether or not the permits are approved. In other words, when you approve a permit, you say, well, you cannot, the beach has to be, there has to be access for people who want access. Like they do in Barbados, like they do in Cuba, that kind of a thing.
Right.
Going forward, and I think maybe this can be part of the resolution.
Well, that will be part of the resolution, because the way it is now, the laws state that you can still walk by up to the high water mark. So there's access, but there's no access, because I don't see how you can walk on the high water mark at Sandals or any of the other hotels that are there.
We're going to come in from the sea on boats.
For that, so it's not practical the way it is in a sense. But and then again, they're all inclusive. So how do you differentiate? I mean, there are a lot of issues out there. Well,
the ones in Barbados and Cuba, some of these are all inclusive too.
Yeah.
That ensure that there's access to the public, because there's just a different entrance. Like when I'm in Barbados, I'm staying in an all-inclusive hotel, and I can just look down and see people using a different pathway, but accessing the beach just the same.
Well, if you look at it though, but what I found is that when I go to the hotels and I stay there and I sit down on the beach and I observe just the flow, the people that are there are not locals looking to bathe on the beach. They're looking to transact business on the beach.
And that can be moderated. that can be moderated. I mean, it can be moderated.
Yeah.
We can't be afraid of our own people to the point where we don't want them to interact with the tourists. I think that is what we have to change.
No, I love our people, our greatest strength. People love Jamaicans, the accent, the way in which we. You know, when I was in college, people said like the way I speak. They say, "Oh, I like how you speak." You know, that really.
Yes.
You know, but so they like the accent, just like how I like Trini accent. You know?
Right. I mean, like Barbadian accent.
Right.
All right. Look here now. Just quickly, another question. Dr. Biwaji, I'm coming. My apologies to Dr. Tunde Biwaji because we had to talk to him in a little while. We were scheduled to talk to him 5 minutes ago. All right. Quickly, here's another question. To what extent will the education system and curriculum incorporating environmental protection and impact be applied from early childhood level to positively impact attitude toward hygiene and decorum going forward? I think this person is referring to the garbage collection and so on, and saying that the education sector can get involved in terms of changing the paradigm and changing the attitude and behavior.
Well, I'm chairman of the primary school, Ochi Primary, and that is something that they push. They're tearing out hygiene and garbage. Because they even have certain days where they walk and pick up garbage and put it in the bags and things of that nature.
Okay,
so it's taught.
Yeah.
But somehow it's
translating?
It's just like when the children graduate from primary school, they're the nicest, lovely kids. But once they reach high school, you wonder where did it go? Where did it go wrong?
So what is needed then is for that system not to be just at the primary school level or the infant school, but also to the high school. So you're taking it through that entire process. And
the adults that are out there who just insist on just disposing of the thing right through the car window.
Media has a role to play too, so I think that this is something that we should also take.
But I will tell you, there are a lot of people out there who make sure that their environment is well kept and so on. So it's not everybody.
Right.
But
it's too many. All right. Michael Belnavis, thank you so much. Thank you so much as usual. We'll keep in touch with you. I'm definitely going to be talking to you about the resolution. And
so we have to ensure that we deal with that issue of the beaches and so on. It's important. I see a passion, and I recognize that people out there need and want public spaces where they can have parks, beaches, rivers. Access is important, and I'll be fighting that cause.
All right. Thank you so much, my brother.
Okay, great.
Mayor of St. Anne's Bay, Council for the Ocho-Rios Division, businessman Michael Belnavis, always very passionate about the issues affecting us as a people here in St. Anne and also as a nation. All right, so let us hold Mr. Belnavis to all the promises, and we'll work with him. Please work with Mr. Michael Belnavis. Kentita, land of the beginning. Kenti means beginning, preeminent, foremost, who is front. Kenti also means foreland. Thank you so much for this, Kwame Pianki. I knew there was something to it, because and this is why it is really good to continue the scholarship. So much work has been done. The linguists have been out there doing so much work on African retention in the Caribbean, and I mean, it's brilliant, good work, and they have done their part. It is for us now to take it to the next level, to say, all right, what do we need to develop on, what more study can be done, what more research can be done, and then to ensure that we write. Because this really adds now, Kwame, to my own thinking, my own research over the years, on the African retention, but also on the scholarship. We were talking earlier about Southern Africa and how so many of the words coming out of Southern Africa, we see them, also in the Igbo territories. We see them a lot here on the island. There's something else here in Jamaica that comes straight from Southern Africa. I can tell you that. Straight from Southern Africa. And that is the way some of our people move, the sound they make, and the dances, right? And I'm talking about people within my own family, where the dance, you see when you see Lady Smith's Black Mambazo, for example, that kind of dance where they are just putting their hands out and they have their one foot up and then one foot up and they do the kind of trumping. We know that dance. You know, our people, like my people, especially the women, that's how they dance. We know that dance. We know that dance. As opposed to, say, the shoulder movement from Ethiopia. Because, you know, there's the Ethiopic dances are, you know, in the shoulder. And then you have the West African dances that focus more on the waistline and so on. And then you have the Southern African dances, which kind of more militant, and the way the foot, or, you know, or the feet, the movement of the feet. So we recognize that also as coming with the language. So, for example, the word unu, which we know now is the same Ubuntu. It's a Shona word for Ubuntu. So Hunu, which is considered a patois word in Jamaica, is really an African word. As Miss Lou would have said, is a good African word. It comes from Southern Africa, and it is Shona. And other languages out of Southern Africa also use the very same Hunu. H-U-N-H-U. Hunu Ubuntu. All right? Let me take a quick break. Some warnings. I think Is Barbados under warning now? Not quite sure. But, this is the latest. The first named hurricane of the season is due to make landfall over a number of islands late on Sunday, which is today. The hurricane has been upgraded by forecasters to a very dangerous Category 3 storm, meaning it is predicted to have winds of 111 to 130 miles per hour. And this major storm is expected to strengthen further as it nears Barbados, Dominica, Grenada, Martinique, St. Lucia, among others. And so that we are understanding that now in some of these, in Barbados, especially in Dominica and Grenada and so on, they are boarding up their homes, they're queuing up for fuel at the petrol stations, they're stockpiling supplies and water in preparation for Beryl, which is a Category 3 storm. Right now, it's been upgraded to a very dangerous Category 3 storm. It's in the Eastern Caribbean, expected to make landfall later this evening. You know, my prayers with the people of the Eastern Caribbean. When we hear that a storm is coming, it's bad enough, but when we hear it's a very dangerous storm, then this is reason to be very, very concerned. So our thoughts with our sisters and brothers in the Eastern Caribbean right now. The Met Service Jamaica, their last post was 53 minutes ago. And basically they say Hurricane Beryl continues to rapidly intensify over the tropical Atlantic, southeast of Barbados, and is expected to become a major hurricane before entering the Eastern Caribbean seas. So, there is that. While we talk and go about our business today, we're very aware that there's a hurricane out at sea. And it's a very dangerous one. Regardless of what's going to happen, Jamaica is not a threat. It's not under threat. Hurricane Beryl is not a threat to Jamaica right now. Although all the trajectory is showing that Jamaica is in the cone, right? So whatever is going to happen, let us be prepared. It's better to be prepared than unprepared. So whatever it is that you can get, I know that so many people will not be able to go to a supermarket today, that you will want to stock up on the tin goods and so on, but you just don't have the money to do that. I'm very, very aware of that. So help your neighbors if you can. For those who are able to, help your neighbors. But ensure that you have your candles, your lamp oil, your what else you need? Your flashlight. Make sure your documents are well secured in terms of putting them in a plastic bag and put them somewhere, so they're not going to get wet. Also ensure that the trees, if you've got trees around your yard that can fall on your house or that can damage other structures, then maybe this is a time also to think about bushing before, it gets too late. So there are some things we can do for now. If you've got things in your yard that can be projectiles, you move them away. We've been having some strong winds in the last few days, and even those strong winds, were taking things up and carrying them all over the place. We saw how that was, and people were losing electricity left, right, and center. Here on the island, just, with 25 minutes of strong winds. So yeah, this is the hurricane season. It's a little bit early, isn't it? Because this is what now? End of June? There you go. June too soon? That's what we used to say. June too soon, July stand by, August it must, September to remember, October all over. But it don't work like that anymore, because here we are in June, and Beryl is barreling down the Eastern Caribbean seas. Election debate, Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I have only one thing to say about that, right? And that is, if this was happening on the continent of Africa, if this was Mugabe and any other African president, they would have led a coup. They would have overthrown the entire government. They would have lobbied and lobbed. They would have lobbed sanctions on Zimbabwe and crippled that country so that it can't even buy food, that people have to eat dirt. If these two geriatrics, one who obviously is in the early stages of, in the mid stages of dementia, for those persons who have had people who have had dementia, you can look at Joe Biden and recognize all the symptoms of dementia, and it is sad, very, very sad, because we would not do that to our fathers any time at all. We recognize dementia. If you've seen it, you know it. There's no looking back, there's no going back. Once you know it, you know it. So there is that. And then there's the other geriatric, who's just equally not making any sense, who has 34 convictions or felony convictions. But these are two elders. These are two elders. If this was happening anywhere on the continent of Africa, if this was Mugabe, if these two men were black, they would have led a coup. Not quite sure if it's our phone lines. I don't think it's our phone lines, because people's phones are ringing. But we're just having a day, it's a morning, where somehow, we're not getting our guests on the phone lines. It could be our problem, or it could be a national problem. I don't know. Were you able to call anybody this morning? No, on a serious note though, this is basically has been happening since 6:30 this morning. Unable to get Al-Hassan Timothy, geopolitical scholar, online. And then, Mr. Michael Belnavis was in studio. Then Dr. Tunde Biwaji, we weren't able to get him on the phone lines. And now, my next guest, who's in the UK, Angela Morris, we're not able to get her on the phone lines, but we're trying. If it has anything to do with Hurricane Beryl, but it is what it is. 255 million compensation bill for what is being called defective vaccine, after the pharmaceutical titan admitted that the COVID did or does cause ultra-rare blood clot side effect. And a wife of one of the victims says they're not going to give up. More than £250 million could be given to victims allegedly harmed by AstraZeneca's COVID vaccine. 51 families are pursuing legal action against a pharmaceutical titan, arguing the defective jab was to blame for their injuries and of loved ones. Lawyers involved in the huge legal battle think some victims could be in line for payouts worth up to £5 million. As such, a total compensation bill, which would be footed by taxpayers because of a deal AstraZeneca struck with the UK government before the rollout commenced, could theoretically reach £255 million. This is coming out of the UK, right? That is, if judges were to rule that the vaccine was to blame for all of the injuries and deaths involved in the class action suit. U.S. government might be planning to do another pandemic. Putin predicted this, yes or no? They're telling us that there's going to be another pandemic. But there are some who feel that this pandemic, I agree. Joe is a vulnerable adult. What happened to mandatory reporting? This is serious. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you on this. You know, it is elder abuse. You don't want to do that to your loved one. He says, anyone from Obama, Clinton to KPJ and the press corps to Morning Joe and the sycophants who did a rapid 180 the minute he walked off stage are culpable. Removing Joe isn't a problem, be it the 24th or the JFK way. You see, yeah, me say putting those things in my mouth. All right, the problem is Harris, if she's sworn in this summer. Let the Machiavellian games begin. Yes, you do have a point. I think they really do have that problem with Kamala Harris, and so they wouldn't want to have her sworn in, but so they're going to hold on for dear life. Kamala is not going to do a much better job than Joe, by the way. Kamala, right. So she's really, I don't know, of the two of them, one is having a problem with dementia, and the other one is behaving dementia-like. So it is what it is. But this is the great United States, the leaders of the free world, the purveyors of democracy, publicly abusing their elders. And we're good with it. We see what we want to see. Video. And he's there in the demonstrations, and they're marching and they're being tear gassed and so on, and he has his phone out and he's he's working for us, so he has his phone out and he's interviewing people. I'm sorry I couldn't carry today. I tried to get it on today, but I had some difficulties. But anyway, so he had this, in the middle of the interview, he's saying to this young man, all right, you're on IRFM. Say, big up Kabu. Oh goodness, I can't. Big up Kabu. Big up Kabu Mahatkeru. Big up ISIS. I had to laugh because Kimathi is so the protester, the young protesters, so he's there marching, and William Ruto must go and repeal the bill, the finance bill, and big up Kabu Mahatkeru, big up ISIS. That's in Kenya. Good morning, Kimathi and Kuwa. You're the best, my brother. You're the best. All right. So let me do this quickly with my brother, Professor Tunde Biwaji. Thank you so much, Tunde, brother Tunde, for coming in on this short notice. So we had it's a miscommunication, isn't it, in terms of where we should be calling you, right?
Yes, I was expecting the call on the landline. That was what I thought I had agreed. And usually I just, within the house, I put my phone somewhere and just go about my merry business. Yeah. Believing that when the landline is called, somebody will hear it. Even if I didn't. And I sat there. And I guess I probably just dozed off.
Yes, you just took a nap.
Sorry about that.
No, that's quite all right. I mean, it was our fault on this end anyway. But it's good that you could come on just the same, because we wanted to talk quickly about the project that you're engaged in now. And I know you had a session yesterday. So with the short time that I have, let me just go quickly to that. First of all, how was the session yesterday?
Well, I believe it went quite well. And the challenge that global Africa faces, which many of our colleagues have been talking about for quite a while, is that we allow other people to define us, and we take the definition that other people give about us and continue to utilize that. But because it is not the way we see ourselves, it means that there is a dissonance, there is a problem with that.
Yes.
And that came out very clearly in the round table that we had at one of the biggest conferences in Africa this time. That is the Lagos Studies Association. It brings together close to 5,000 scholars from all over the world.
Yes.
This time, last year I was there physically. This year I couldn't attend physically. I took part virtually. But it was quite very good. The gentleman who anchored the program, Professor Apume from the University of Zululand, is quite well known to me. He's a very brilliant young man doing a lot of good work. His colleague, Professor Iglobu, or Morgan Iglobu at the University of Pretoria, is also a very, very talented thinker. And the lady who came on, who was physically present, Professor Sally from Makerere University in Uganda, is also exceptionally brilliant when it comes to gender studies, feminist, masculinist studies. And the big thing that came out yesterday was the fact that many of us now realize how dangerous the definition of Africa that is being used within the international community is.
Yes.
Because it allows them now to divide Africa again after the partition into what they call Africa south of the Sahara. And when you have Africa south of the Sahara, it's a very racist nomenclature.
Yes.
Because what it does is to define poverty, to define underdevelopment, to define superstition, to define primitivism, and all those things. And I said at the forum that Africa was not always like that. There was no Sahara Desert. It was lush vegetation more than 50,000 years ago. And people moved freely. Black people moved freely, and that is why from north to south, until the Mediterranean Africa and Arabic Africa came in, Africa was homogeneously black.
Right. And these are some of the conversations we were even having this morning when we were talking about African retention in the Caribbean and how the focus of scholarship in terms of African retention in the African diaspora and especially Jamaica, that people tend to look at West Africa because of how narrowly we are defining ourselves, but that we are people of a continent. If you look at this historically, from the Igbo communities to the Bantu communities to Southern Africa, and I know people have their hang-ups on the word Bantu, but we use it in reference to the languages that come out of those spaces.
The Bantu series of languages come from West Africa up down to South Africa, as well as East Africa. The homogeneity is quite very obvious, and that was what Sheikh Anta Diop spoke very seriously about. And I brought up the idea of my very good friend, late Charles Mills.
Yes.
His discussion of blackness visible. And, you are very right.
Yes, and so that it's a political definition in the south of the Sahara definition that we find ourselves, even we as Pan-Africans have to be careful. And I hear you saying that in your presentation, that we have to be very careful how we buy into these definitions of ourselves, because we also buy then into the economics and the politics of what that means for us as a people.
Yes, and it then means that there is a sort of deficiency in the way we look at ourselves, in the way we collaborate with each other.
Yes.
I mean, and that is very, very obvious in the way in which the Caribbean has associated with Africa. The angst is very much there. Mm-hmm. And that is a stumbling block with, in my little way, I tried as much as possible to make colleagues to realize that if we don't come together, all these problems that we are having will continue forever, because the enemy only knows about violence. That is the ontology of the Euro-Arabic world, the Abrahamic religion, the ontology and metaphysics is derived from violence. Mm. And it's something very, very peculiar. How can you use the worst element in human nature to then generalize about human nature? I just have not been able to comprehend it. And I tell people that I didn't descend from a set of evil. I was not conceived in sin. I was not brought up in sin. Because that means I would not have survived. Anybody who understands what that ontology says, you know that it could not define humanity. Humanity could never have survived.
Within that context. So one of the things we want to do is to have a wider conversation with you on this very topic, Professor Biagwoji, another time. So sorry that we lost so much time, but obviously quite understandable. Is the conference ongoing, and how can persons be part of it?
Oh, the conference ends this weekend. It actually started since, I think, Sunday. It's a very huge thing, and it's something that one could arrange the next outing, which will be next year. It's something one could key into, because it's a very, very wonderful opportunity which could enable our people to, since we are now having it virtually and all that, one doesn't really need to be physically present in Lagos to be part of it.
Yes.
And there are other initiatives that I've been trying. When I came back from Zimbabwe, I was trying to link up with you, because a wonderful Jamaican lady who is studying dancehall is trying to get out of the general way in which dancehall has been studied, how it has been defined. Mm-hmm. And she went to Zimbabwe and met many of the DJs, and it's very surprising. They see what they are doing as Jamaican, but they are not doing it. They claim that they are not doing it the Jamaican way. That their own is not about blackness or anything like that.
Yes.
And it's something to engage in the future.
It will be good to have further conversations on that, and I will talk to you some more so that we can make those connections and have that conversation. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tunde Biagwoji, and we talk soon.
Thank you.
All right. Professor Tunde Biagwoji there. The conference is ongoing, and great presentation from him yesterday. Interesting points raised, because we really have bought into some of these definitions of ourselves, haven't we? All right, back with you. And I want to go to the phone lines now at 5 minutes after 9 o'clock to speak with my next guest, Angela Morris, author and a specialist business coach. She's worked in the health and social care sector for over 25 years, specializing in working with providers of children and adult care and support. And okay, so we do have her online. We want to go to that now. Let me do this first. Let me see if we've got our sister online. Angela, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Ah, beautiful. Thank you so much, my sister. I know we called you earlier and you were willing, but we're very happy that you're on again. This is, of course, our sister Angela Morris. She's author of the book, Don't Let Them Stop You. It's personal. We've done a series of interviews with her. We've been reading her book in the Running African Book Club. So many of you have told me that you have purchased a book and that you're reading the book. And some of you have already read the book. Don't Let Them Stop You. It's personal. And when we left off last with Angela, we were talking about the male-female relationships. And we looked at narcissism. The narcissism is such a wide topic that we needed an entire hour to go through that, and we still haven't even touched it. Angela, it's quite something, isn't it?
It really is, Kabu. And yes, thank you once again for having me on the show. I always feel very privileged to join you and to be able to talk about this topic. And yes, it is a huge topic, and there are complexities. But I think if we can kind of break the back of some of it so that our listeners can kind of get a wider understanding, and also things they're able to identify, which they may already be questioning. But let's see what happens from here.
And so now we want to talk about the others, because there's one that you kept referencing because it's very close to narcissism, but you pointed out the differences last week. And if you could do that for us, because this is the coercive personality.
Yes. Well, yes, it's coercive. It's not so much a personality, but it's a behaviour. So, which is called coercive control. So, I mean, right now in the UK, it's now a criminal offence to have this type of behaviour with another person. You can go to jail now in prison for coercive control, but actually, one of the issues is it's like a lot of these other behaviours, it's a bit of a slow burn, so you wouldn't necessarily understand it from the get-go. And also in certain cultures, certainly where there's a prevalent male dominance, based on the role modelling you also have, you might actually think it's quite normal.
In terms, because of how you're socialised.
Yes. So some of the behaviours might be, you might be like, that's normal.
Well, let us look at it then. Break it down for us. What is it? How does it present?
Well, it presents itself with, as I say, initially it's a slow, like a lot of these behaviours, you know, when you meet somebody, they're always very charming and everybody wants to present their best side, don't they? So they're quite friendly. But some of the things it can look like, I think, is the best way, so people can get a picture. So it's being critical, using verbal abuse. So what is being critical? Name calling, kind of putting you down, you know, perhaps mocking the way you speak or the way you may pronounce your words. And so you might think, well, you know, people might do that, but yes, so there is, you know, where somebody may tease you, but if it's something where they're making a point and it's becoming kind of relentless and you're feeling more and more less than and feeling embarrassed or ashamed, so it could look like that. It could look like putting pressure.
How is that different? How is that different from narcissism? And it seems to be bordering on bullying.
Yes, well, it is a form of bullying, but the reason it's different from narcissism, because narcissists, remember, they're all about themselves. Like for the narcissist is, I need you to supply me with as much adoration, worship, and praise, and that's your job. And I would, but so a narcissist won't necessarily behave like that. But when it's coercive control, the whole journey is to control you. So you start to feel less empowered. Maybe you feel, you know, if they're going to your sensitive points, but they use it because they're eventually going to start telling you how to live your life, because you then start to feel your self-esteem drops. Now, in any of these relationships, your self-esteem will obviously diminish, and if it's low, it will go even lower. but it may start off high and then go low. But the objective is different.
Okay.
So the narcissist objective is feed me with as much, it's all about me. Whereas in the coercive relationship, it's actually all about you, but it's all about you're not being good enough, so I need to control everything you're doing. So it's different types of power.
All right. Okay. So this is one way in which it presents itself. Putting down, belittling, bullying in a way, with the objective of controlling.
Yes. Yes.
And you're saying and you're saying that this to many might appear natural, depending on how you're socialized, but that but there's an underbelly to that, and by the time you realize that something is wrong, it's possibly too late.
Yeah, too late in as much as you're already under that influence. Because, people say, oh, don't be silly, because also, again, based on the circles that you're in, they may kind of reinforce the behaviour inadvertently to say, well, what are you fussing about? That's not a big deal. What's your problem? Or you're insecure, or you need to kind of get over yourself. And I think the key with these relationships is that people struggle to find their voice and to speak up about how they really feel. And that's kind of, I think in any type of relationship that's not going what I would call in the right direction, you might have started off as somebody who was, you might be very vocal and you might, just say what you think and what you believe. Or if you feel like somebody's being inappropriate or saying something inappropriate, you're going to check it, you're going to call it. But eventually you stop doing that and you start to feel like maybe the person's even right.
Well, so let's because one thing what you've done in the book is to really go into details about the behavior of this person and some of the things that they might do. So let's go through them one by one. You talked just now about the putting down. There are many others, including isolating you from others and being disrespectful to you. But could you go through them for me as many as you possibly can?
Yeah. So there's kind of putting pressure on you in terms of communication. It can be with sulking, which is a very powerful tool that some people use. Threatening to withhold money, disconnecting the phone and internet. That can involve taking away your mobile phone, taking away your car. Withholding your right to use from withholding medication, lying to your friends about you, being disrespectful, which is constantly putting you down and in front of others as well. So they're not just doing it behind closed doors; they're actually doing it in front of people. And then not listening when you talk, not responding, refusing to help around the house. Which is disrespectful. People may not see it as that. You've got kids and they don't want to help. Like they didn't give birth to them as well, or you didn't share the parenting. Harassing you, checking up on you, following you up, following you. Not allowing you any privacy, following you wherever you go. Also, then breaking trust, which is lying to you, withholding information, being jealous, having other relationships, using sexual violence.
Hang on a sec, because you talk about breaking trust, lying, withholding information, being jealous, and having other relationships. I mean, you just described a lot of men.
I know.
I can't tell you what I was about to say.
Well, yeah, but I guess stop it! Don't make me laugh. No. You're like, well, no. So remember, these things come as a package. It's not just one thing; it's a combination of things, and it's that person feeling that they're able to do all those things, and you're not going to do anything about it. Yeah, you can come across someone that's cheating, but you can say, well, we're done here. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you can call them out. But when you're no longer able to speak up about it, and it becomes a control, like what you can do, like in some cases people are still afraid to like leave their man, or if they're gonna Do you know what I mean? So you're actually being coercively controlled, because then he's going to do it in your face.
Yeah.
And what are you actually going to do about it? And he might ask you, and exactly what are you going to do about that? And the response is silence. Yeah, I thought so. So you're being controlled, because remember, control is about having your choices taken away from you.
Right.
So yeah, so when you're being controlled, your choices are being, or I wouldn't even say taken away, they're being eroded, because something is happening inside of you where you feel like, I don't have any choice. I have to put up with this. I have to do what they say. I have to follow their instructions.
But really, this is an abusive situation that you have been sucked into.
Yes. Yes, and some have not been sucked in, some have walked right in, because that is their role modelling. They've seen it play out between their own parents. And not being able to identify it for being what that was.
Hang on for me, please, Angela. Let me take a break and come back.
No worries.
Of the book, and we are discussing one chapter in that book we have. and you know, it's interesting, because we're not going to finish that chapter today, because there's also the parenting style.
Parent-child,
right, that we have the parent-child relationship, and in terms of having that relationship within the man-woman relationship. So under that, we'll deal with another time. But here on the island, Angela, and this is among youth. In other words, there's no age restriction on what we see unfolding in Jamaica, where mainly men have been killing or hurting their partners, and a lot of the background to that has to do with she was leaving, or so it's always that she cannot leave me. She has already left. And then you go back now to do this. What are the signs that women or partners, but women specifically, because we see this happening so much to women, should be looking out for the warning signs, a red flag, that this is beyond just being physically or verbally abusive? This now could lead to death.
Yeah, I think the key word we're looking here is if the person is behaving in an obsessive manner. So when you feel like maybe emotionally they're almost suffocating you, like you can't breathe, because they are constantly monitoring everything you do, and they're not hiding it either. They're confronting you with false accusations of, like a guy can't even look at you, and even if they look at you, it's like they're taking it out on you. Does that make sense? So you've got you just up, and so when it's obsessive, so it's almost like they're treating you like literally that you are their object, and they're not allowing you to have. It's all these things, not allowing you to have your opinion, But again, love bombing you in the beginning, because I think the key thing. Okay, let's take it back. The key thing that is the red flag right at the beginning is the love bombing.
And remind us of what that looks like.
Right. It's basically, you meet somebody, they're really nice. But they literally from the get-go, within a week they're telling you that they love you. They're constantly calling you, sending you flowers, taking you on dates, buying you stuff. And it may seem flattering, but it's not normal. That's not how you date people, right? So from the get-go, and it's like, ooh, this is a bit sort of smothering. At first you're like, oh, this is nice, but then it's like constantly wanting to be in your presence from the very first time they've met you. No slow build-up, no let's see how it goes, no taking it slow. Want to go full 100%, want to get, in, and then by month 2, they're talking about they want to get married. Yeah. So you're like, oh, this thing about, oh, you're my, feeling like you're my soulmate and blah, blah, blah. But it's all happening in such an intensive manner that for the woman, they may see it as being very romantic, and that's the problem.
And so that there are two people here right? So this person who is the abuser, who has whether it's a personality disorder or an insidious behavior, that there's that person, but also there's a person who this is being done to. Let us say the woman. So she has to be mindful of herself.
Yeah.
Of how she's reflecting that back to him.
Yes, because again, you see, the thing is, this is how, you know, these people find their victims, because actually, if you're full of mouth, as we say, right?
Yes.
And you're very vocal, no, they're not going for you, so don't worry about you. Those of you who are, you know, full of malt, going to speak up, they're not coming for you.
Right.
You can relax.
Right.
The ones they're coming for are the ones that are so grateful that you're paying attention to them. Mm-hmm. That's who they're going for. And remember, sometimes people are watching you and you don't know they're watching you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're saying these abusers, they would be watching you and you have no idea before they make their move. So they would have been studying you before.
Yeah. Yeah, they could have been studying you. You don't know. You might be going to a bar or a club or even a church, and they're studying you, and you don't know you're being studied, but they're watching how you move, watching your body language, because they're very clever. So these people, they're not stupid. They're very clever. They do stupid things, but their craft is to study people and how they move, and then they can decide if you are worth approaching.
Very demonic.
Sorry.
Very demonic.
yeah. It's like myself, right?
Yeah.
I think the key to understand all of that is calculated.
Yes.
So when they start behaving in a certain way, it's calculated. It was always there. They just masked it until and what they will do, they will wait until they feel like now she's really fallen in love with me, like she's fallen proper. That's when they start.
That's when they start what?
Start the antics of
the abuse. That's when they're showing you now their real selves.
Yeah. But they wait until you're emotionally invested. Therefore, they're, sometimes you could have gone and told all your family or your friends, and then you feel shame. You're like, oh my gosh, and I can't, and you're a bit shocked yourself. You're like, oh my, that, why are you behaving like that? But that was always them. And that's why it's so insidious and dangerous.
Yeah. I read somewhere that 3 months into any of this, whether it's a love bombing or any of these relationships with these abusers, that 3 months and they will show themselves.
Yeah, well, it can be. No, but you see, again, it depends on who it is. Some are in for the long game. So we can't say there's a 90-day rule, because also in that time you may not have seen them very much. Does that make sense? And if you do see them frequently and it's all hearts and flowers every time, then you're still not going to see it.
Yes, I understand.
It's dependent on, they are waiting for the person to fall in. They will do it for as long as it takes for the person to fall in love with them. But as I said, if you're somebody
even if it's a year,
they're not going to you.
Yeah, I get you. Totally get you. So once again, to the person who is being pulled into this, once again, mindfulness is important, and the ability to reflect is also important if you've come out of this. So I want to look at these two things as we wrap. That mindfulness as you're entering into a relationship, and then if you've been through that and have been abused and have come out of this, what the reflective or reflection process looks like.
Yes. So, as I mentioned earlier, the reflection process is, again, it's not about you beating yourself up, but it is about questioning yourself. How did I get here? How did I end up in this? And what did I miss along the way? And what did I ignore? Because, listen, the fundamental process, we want to be loved. Everybody, I've not found anybody that doesn't want to be loved. And if they tell you they don't want to be loved, they're lying. Everybody wants to be loved. So, that innate, so there is an natural innate desire to be loved. But what we have to do is look at who do we think is loving us and how are they doing it. And the reason why I said it can be complex, because you might have been observing your mother and father in one of these relationships for years and not knowing what it was and thought it was normal. So therefore, if you've seen that happen and that too looks like normal, when you meet somebody else who's doing it, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And that's why they talk about repeating the habits, the bad habits, where you have children repeating the bad habits, because this is what you know, this is how you've been socialized, so this is what you look for. But obviously, but you're going to be hurt. Either way, you're going to be hurt.
Yeah. But and how do you break the cycle? You break the cycle by doing things like walking away, by saying it's over. That's how you break the cycle, because the others coming behind you can see and go, oh, you know, she walked away from that, or, you know, she didn't tolerate that anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's how you break it. You don't go, oh, well, you know, till death do us part, or I can't, or where we started, or no, you go, actually, I'm not doing this and I'm off. So that's how you break the cycle. Yeah. And then your children will look, yes, no, listen, and I'm not one to say, oh, break up families, but otherwise, are you going to stay there and let them kill you, or stay there and let them put you in the mental hospital? Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So at some point, we always talked about till death, literally, like if, you know, said like, but there are some things worse than physical death, and that's the living mental death. Yes. And sometimes death can be murder. Absolutely. It's not a peaceful, you know, falling off in your sleep situation. No, exactly. And I'm saying that, you know, sometimes you can be in a relationship and it's tortured. You're not even yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, or you're not the person that people remember you to be. Mm-hmm. And they're like, you know, you meet people, you're like, what happened to them? Yes. And do you find that your friends or those who are close to you who love you will point out if they see a change? To what extent should people be listening to those that you know really have your interest at heart and are saying to you, something is not right here? Yeah, I mean, the thing is, okay, it's you know, relationships, it's very fragile, and there's a fine line between being nosy and intrusive, right? Mm-hmm. And looking after, right? So, you know, because what will happen, what you have to be kept, it's a difficult line to show, because what will happen is, if a friend makes a comment, you go back and tell the guy, they'll say, oh, they're just jealous because they haven't got no man, or they're just jealous because their relationship matched up. So you've got to be careful. Yeah. So what I would say is, if you're going to ask a friend or a loved one, what do you think? Tell them that they must be absolutely honest with you, right? And if you have concerns and you're on the outside looking in, you just ask the person, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to quickly get shut out and you're going to lose them. You say to them, are they okay? Yeah. And just say, oh, are you okay? Are you really happy? Just wanted to know. Yeah. And if they're not happy, even if they don't say it, their face will tell, and you're like, well, you know, if you want to talk, then come and have a chat with me off the record. And please do not, if you're going to get them to talk, don't make it what they call chatty patty. So they tell you, and the next thing you've run off with their whole story and gone around the whole village with it. You know what I mean? So if you're genuinely concerned, ask them, are they okay? Just say, okay, you don't quite seem yourself, but if you ever want to call me, you're giving them a little lifeline, right? Yes. Yeah, we can go and have a coffee and just have a chat and have a catch up. You know, I remember I went to some event and, I heard, was I there? I might have been, I think I was at an event but I left, and then I'd heard about, so this is how bad it can be. A girl passed somebody a note. At this event I'd left, somebody passed somebody a note. They were there with their guy saying, can you help me? Right? And they knew the person. Like, they were like, can you help me? So obviously, but they were like, oh, but it's, and I'm like, you guys missed the trick right there. She was trying to give you a message. Yes. But they turned up. Why are you going to pass somebody a note saying, can you help me? Obviously, they're in problems. Yeah. And in a situation like that, how do you even help? Well, maybe if you get a chance to call the person aside. Me, what I would do, if they pass me a note, I would write my name and number on the back and pass it straight back to them and say, call me when you can, as soon as you're free. Yeah? Yeah. Or, do you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is, but there was something and everybody was saying, oh, but they seem all right. But she was with the guy. Why are you, and again, this is what I'm saying, Kabri. So even her friends and that were like, oh, well, I don't understand why I'm like, why is nobody following this up?
Because the thing about it is that it is not always what it appears to be. And that's why it's also important that we look out for each other, whether it's in friendships or in our families. All right, so let us wrap this in, because there's another aspect to this very same chapter that we mentioned earlier, the parent-child situation in a relationship that we want to talk about when you come on next time. But just to wrap up, if there's a takeaway from this that you want our listeners to be mindful of, to remember, what would that be?
I think it's always important to remember that no matter what anybody says to you, your voice and your opinion matters. It doesn't matter. It could be deciding which is what you're going to wear, what you even want to watch on TV. Your opinion still always should count. You should never, if anybody starts to diminish your opinion and tries to emotionally or mentally push you aside, that's a red flag. If anybody's trying to dictate to you where you should be, when you should be, what you should wear, how you should look, it's a red flag. And I don't care if they just say, I want you to look your best. If I didn't ask you for your opinion, I'm not interested in what you think about how I look. Because those are the little things where it kind of starts. Mm-hmm. So I think in terms of that, just always if somebody makes you feel like, you can't speak, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. So, and if you see that with other people, or you may not see it in yourself, but you might be, I noticed, you see, your friends with guys and they're putting them down. You need to tell them to check that. Mm-hmm. Like, don't let him do that to you, because these are all the little seeds, and the seeds may already have started before them, but these are the things, the little red flags. So watch out for your friends. Have your friends back and be there.
Thank you so much, my sister Angela Morris. Don't let them stop you. It is personal. The book is available. If you wish to purchase, where can we get the book to buy?
You can buy it on Amazon.com. And just to say, Kabri, we'll talk about another time. I've just launched a effective communication journal under the same theme, out on Amazon.com. Yes. It's amazing. It's a massive book. I got it. It's bigger than A4, and it's a fantastic journal, which I will tell you about how I got inspired to put that together.
All right, brilliant. Well, we talk next time. Yeah, all right. Yeah. We talk soon.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Here too, my sister.
Right, bye-bye.
In applied psychology, and she has been really diligent in helping us to understand the different personalities and behaviors that can impact your progress. And some of this you can walk right into, as you heard her saying just now, or you find yourself sucked into. And this behavior, coercive in terms of male-female relationships, Angela, coercive control, this is one of the most insidious so far, isn't it?
Yes, because you know what, it can, it's funny, in the break I was just thinking, and I touched it in the book as well, but it can be as simple as, the person is not even dressing or wearing their hairstyle in accordance with what they like. They are being controlled. They're being told what they can and cannot wear. Like, go and take that off. You're not wearing that. Or, do you see what I'm saying? So it can be, and it can be, if you don't, I'm like, well, if you don't like it, I'm not wearing it for you, I'm wearing it for me. But,
right. But
you see what I'm saying?
In a relationship like that, because obviously this is a behavior you said, but obviously if this person is so controlling, this is also a dangerous person.
Yes, because, and when you're at that level where they're literally dictating. Now, as I always like to clarify, like I do, I'm not talking about you ask your partner their opinion and then they tell you. Because if you ask them and they tell you they don't like it, well, you asked, right?
Right.
But I'm talking about a situation where they're like, actually, you're not going to wear that today. Or where do you think you're going in that? To make you spin around and go back and change. And when it's at that level as well, and because by that stage, there's probably a lot of physical intimidation. It may not yet be physical, as in violence, but the threat is there. The underlying sense of, if I don't do what this person says, you know, something physical is going to happen to me. And can I say, although it's a lot of males, do you know that there are men, I have spoken to men that have also been victims of this scenario? Because because, you know, for some men, they're very vulnerable to that sort of thing, and as well, you know, so it can go vice versa, male, female, female, male. But
so this is an abusive situation either way. Yes, it is. Either way. So you don't get a pass because you're female. And I think that's really important, because, you know, there are women that are like that, and they think because they're female, they deserve a pass. But actually, what you're doing is you're actually kind of starting to infringe on another person's human rights. You know, we have a right to choose. We have a right to decide what we like, you know. So in that, so you'll have all of that, and what will 9 times out of 10 happen, if you were to raise it or confront, they'll deny it. They'll say, no, you made me do that, or if it wasn't for you. They could also go the other way and start begging for forgiveness. I promise I won't do that again. And so it's really a turbulent situation, but emotionally and mentally, it's very eroding for the person who's subject to that. Does it ultimately get violent? If it's not, if there's no intervention, does it ultimately get violent?
Get violent. Yeah, it can get violent. But I tell you what's changing now is so how people get their revenge in a different way, because they know that violence it's no longer acceptable to do that. I mean, you'll always get some who do that, right? Because they feel like the person's got nowhere to go, they've got nowhere to run. But it's also changed the way it plays itself out. So, for example, there may be recordings of the person who is, maybe they are undressed, they may have had pictures taken, and then another way they'll do it is by putting it on social media.
And we see a lot of that happening now. Which is also, and thank God the law is dealing with this, because, you know, there's so much that was just happening on social media that wasn't, there were no safeguards in place, there's no monitoring, no accountability. But now you do that revenge porn thing, then, you know, you can face jail time. So there is that.
And even the threat, so it's changed its fate. But you'll always get some people that do it anyway, and even the threat of that happening, because if you did some private video and it was consensual, and then the threat of that can also be the fear factor. You know, because a lot of times it's really funny when you see these videos that the man hides his face, but the woman don't hide her face. I'm like, right.
Usually the man will film it. But it's an interesting thing, because we had, just now we're seeing in the news where in the last few weeks where a massive pastor stepped back. I didn't know him before. I just saw the news and realized that this man was massive, called Tony Evans or something like that, and that he stepped down from being a pastor, this mega church that he has in the United States, and he said it was because of past sins. And, you know, so I didn't know him and I don't know these pastors, and I started researching this thing. And I saw where other pastors were saying, well, he was blackmailed, and I'm not sure if this is really what happened. I'm just researching to see why would a pastor step down from a successful black church. And then there are questions now about other, extramarital affairs or whatever they were, and whether they were also homosexuality, and a whole and the threat of that for him now is that you know, you're being blackmailed with this. If you don't do what we say, then you know, and so he came out ahead of it, and he said, listen, I'm stepping down, and it is for past sins. But does it really even how, once you've gone through the abuse, and I'm not saying he was abused, I'm just using this as an example of the threats that people can come under. Once you've gone through the abuse and the coercive control relationships, and you walk away or you step out, what next for you? Because obviously you would have suffered a traumatic period. And this, I remember you saying for narcissism last time we spoke, that people can get mad in these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So,
sure.
What's the drawback for people who have survived?
Well, I think the thing is, one of the first things they do is do not rush in. I think the first rule with any of those, any type of, whether it's narcissism or because the thing you don't do is rush into another relationship. Mm-hmm. That's what you don't do. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like, not saying you must be, a spinster for the rest of your life, or
yes. But
what
take your time to heal, because there has to be a healing process.
Time. Yeah, and everybody's time is different. Mm-hmm. And I think to be a part of being kind to yourself, and people may not really recognize that, is actually giving yourself time to heal. Mm-hmm. Because of certain issues, childhood issues, you're still going to go through, it might be as coercive as hell, and it might have been narcissistic as hell, but some people may still go through that feeling of feeling abandoned, even if they walked away. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if you have issues with being alone, and abandonment is a problem for you, you could easily fall into the hands of another person who will do exactly the same thing, maybe even worse, or different degrees. So that healing process of stepping back and going, right, I need to kind of evaluate, how did I get here, is the first question you ask. Mm-hmm. You ask, how do you get here? And then you start to evaluate the journey of that relationship.
How do you prevent blaming yourself, victimizing your own self in that process of asking, how did I get here? I mean,
well, rather than using it, so you rather than victimizing, in terms of being able to reflect, which is one of the, I think it's the very last chapter of it's a bonus chapter about self-reflection, right? Mm-hmm. So being a victim and taking responsibility is two different things. Mm-hmm. So you victimize, you go, oh my God, how did that happen to me? What did I do? Oh, I was so stupid. How could I be so stupid? And why did I? No, rather than going, okay, let me evaluate what was going on in my life at the time when I entered that relationship. But you can be quite clinical. Yes. Did that person remind me of somebody from my past? Did it remind me of my dad? Did it remind me of my mum? In as much as there's a safety with familiarity. So what was it about those particular individuals that drew you to them in the first place? Mm-hmm. And looking at whether maybe, and you can be duped as well. But we all have like an intuition, and sometimes what we do, and I've spoken to many women about this, we spot something and then sweep it under the carpet. And we go, oh, that'd be right. So the first thing is to allow yourself time. Like, the world is not coming to an end. There are 8 billion people on the planet. You can wait, give yourself a bit of time to recover, because emotionally and mentally you would have been injured by that relationship.
How difficult is it to walk away from these kinds of relationships? Because as insidious as this sounds, and controlling, there has to be some kind of trauma bonding. And you talk about the fear that the victim, that the person who's in this relationship would be going under for a period of time. How difficult is it to walk away?
It can be, depending on how long you've been in it. It can be extremely difficult, and you probably will, I would say, if you've been in that relationship for years, you probably need a lot of support from friends, family, even a therapist, counsellor to help you. But it can take a long time to get out, because it's, the reason, in I'm sure you have the same in Jamaica, in England, we have a lot of, domestic abuse refuges. And 9 times out of 10, the women go back, even though they are getting beaten to a pulp. And you're like, why would you go back? Because we are, as human beings, we are emotional. So depending on how emotional we are, and our, and our vulnerable, where we are vulnerable. And again, a lot of this goes back to, I'm telling you, Kabu, you can trace a lot of this back to childhood, a lot, because children who are very confident and, which we haven't really encouraged in the Caribbean community, because we say you're too bright, or you're too prime, or you're feisty, or whatever. So when you come from a culture where it's expected that you're naturally to be submissive, certainly as a girl child, you can easily fall into that. And then if you have to come out of it. And if you don't have enough support when people are telling you what is your problem, like you are lucky that he's not doing this, and you're lucky, or if you keep getting this reinforcement, it makes it even harder to pull away, because then you're truly on your own. It can be done, but it takes tremendous courage and strength. But that's also why it's important to make sure you've got the right people around you that will listen.
Because one of the things you write about also in the book, and in this chapter, I think at the beginning of the chapter, you talk about codependency. And I think later on, somewhere it might be in the very same chapter, you talk about this trauma bonding. It is important that the different ranges that the individual might be going through, whether it's emotions or I'd say emotional levels that you're climbing to, or you're breaching in a relationship like that, and for how long. You talk about the time that you might be in the relationship, and then that time factor might be dependent. I mean, you leaving that relationship might be dependent on how long you have been in there and how confident you are. Is there, when we were talking last time, right, about narcissism, you kept referring to this particular behavior, and one of the things you said is that persons violence will be included at some point, but you also talked about that the person who is being victimized, who is being abused, can also be killed.
Oh yeah. I mean, statistically, if we talk about these relationships in generally, statistically, and not all the time, but yeah, it can result in death. And some people are willing to go to prison rather than let anybody else have you. And they, for the narcissist, it'll be a badge of, if they took it to that extreme, to them it's something that they'd be proud of.
Let me take a break, because you see, this is something that it's prevalent on the island now in Jamaica, right? And so I want to spend a few minutes on it. Let me take a break to Eastern Caribbean islands like Barbados and Grenada and St. Lucia and some others, Dominica and so on, and they're under some serious threats. As I said before, our hearts are really with them now, because this is a very dangerous Category 3 hurricane, and it is expected to develop into a Category 4, this is what we're hearing. Strong out to sea, and Jamaica is in the cone, but not a threat to Jamaica as we speak. Bottom line is that we're in the hurricane season. So once again, finally, on this hurricane, remember to start preparing your documents. Because do you ever, we hear all the time, so put your documents in plastic and so on. You already have your documents in plastic, right there? you already, grab the mic, eh? You already have your documents in plastic, or you normally put your documents in plastic?
What I would suggest, and I'm in the process of doing that, is to digitize my documents and store them in the cloud.
But what about the documents we have hand into? That's a very good idea. What about the ones like...
You always duplicate them.
Right. Digitize and store into cloud.
You can, that is...
That's a very good idea. That's a very good idea.
Yeah, that is one of them.
But so you protect the ones now, like your certificates, your passport.
You must always copy them, though. You must always digitize them. The hard copy.
Better like your passport and so on, The documents where you're gonna need for.
But you see, if your passport gets mislaid, when you go to replace it, they're going to ask all those very same information.
I hope them digitize it. I hope them up. Well, you said they're not digitized.
Eh?
The peak are not digitized.
No, and I'm saying when you go to, let's say you lost your passport, right? And you go to replace it,
all the information,
a lot of these questions,
right? Which
so if you can
just download
present.
This is what it looks like.
A lot of the
you want that to your system,
as it is.
Yeah.
Right. There might be less hassle.
Yeah.
So fine. But the actual present documents that you have, it is always a good exercise to have them in somewhere that is hard for water to.
Yeah. Because what did we lose in Gilbert? What did you
lose?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't lose anything.
You never lose that. Not even you.
Not any of those No. Actually, I lived in Kingston at the time. And,
yes.
I didn't have much to lose anyway.
Okay. But did you say about lose a roof? Brownstone, the roof never leave it. Did you lose a Brownstone?
No.
Well. So we didn't lose our roof in St. Mary. Because you know it got because the
people in the hills were buffered by the mountains. So I don't think a lot of us got.
They're not hill in St. Mary over there. When the thing. All right, listen.
But when you are straight off the coast, right where you are.
But up in the mountains. Straight off the coast, but up in the hill.
I live 10 miles from the sea.
All right then. Okay, all right, I get your point. So the thing is, so you remember it going on. So it come and then there was the eye, and then the winds came from the other direction. Right. So when the winds came from the other direction, we were just looking up in the sky. So we found ourselves looking up in the sky. So we lost a lot, like books and documents and the whole thing. So it is a really serious warning, you know, when they say put your things in a plastic. Put them in a plastic. And I agree with you. Whatever you can store.
And you mentioned a point that that is serious. Let me ask you this. Do you remember when you could store your items at the bank for safekeeping? You could buy a box at the bank.
Or the post office. No. Oh yeah, a safe at the bank.
Yes, you could buy a
safe.
No,
rich people like yourself.
No, you never have to be rich. You never have to be rich.
Rich people, something like Big
You had to have things that you couldn't afford to lose.
Big A, do not give away your thing.
No, it had nothing to do with rich. It had nothing to do with rich. No, I learned from my days of working. No, listen. Let me say this. I learned this from my days of working in a bank, not from my days of storing documents.
He graduated from Eton.
Right? Yeah. No, so don't try and drop it. But that service is not available, I think, by and large.
But the banks are not available themselves. Are the banks available?
No, so I'm saying these safety deposit boxes are not a feature of banks anymore. Where
you could go.
You would have an option.
I didn't know about that though. I know about the post office. I know you could buy a box at the post. Oh yes. I say, rich people something.
As I said.
Right.
I know of the service because I used to work in
rich people something like when they have jewelry and like when they watch Mission Impossible or Ocean's 11.
It was very available here in Jamaica.
It's an Ocean 12 business.
No, but
so Big, you're the original Ocean 2, Ocean 1, Ocean.
Very available here. So what used to happen? So I'm wondering, and it was an annual fee. So I'm wondering, what has become of that service, because that would have.
I think it's still there,
a viable option. I don't know.
But a lot of people have their own safes in their homes now.
No, that is a major investment, though.
Yeah.
Right. For people who have the luxury of owning a firearm, you have to build a safe in your house. That is, without saying, a safe haven for documents and which you speak.
Yeah, but you can buy a safe now and put it in a safe place in your home. You can buy a safe and put it in a safe.
But are you just a rich people business? That?
Oh. My back. No, so we can't manage. Right, there you go. So, no, but I know, but I only see these things on TV. But point taken, Biggie, that you can put your documents, and I suppose people are still doing that, whether it is in their home or in places of safety, like, rich people who go upstairs to the bank. Like when you go to the bank, you go upstairs.
I know all banks have upstairs.
Oh, you go, okay, you go. We can't manage our feeling. Listen, I talk too long. Honestly, I'm sad. I hurt me, I know. All right, when you pass through the manager office and go down the corridor.
Go to the office.
Right. Well, in any case, so you hear about the hurricane, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
burial.
It is good warning.
Old man doing a burial,
To be forewarned.
Yes. This one, because it's Miss Burial. Because we're going to put on Miss Pan her name. Because I don't know where to get this name Burial from. Because that's a really, it's an old name.
Yeah, that's a roll on my granny's side.
Yeah, man, that a Miss Beryl.
Miss Beryl and Miss Merkel.
Yeah, exactly. Miss Beryl. So it really looks away, and we see Mayor Motley came out yesterday, talking to the people of Barbados. Andrew Holness was out last night talking to the Jamaican people about, the hurricane, pointing out that at the minute it wasn't a threat to Jamaica, but that we should really, be prepared one way or the other. I thought that was good. It was a good look for him. Right. Coming out to say that, putting the kind of attention on it that I think is needed. And let us hope that it veer clear off. I haven't looked at the coordinates yet. But me sure that when we look at it, we can know
exactly.
Exactly.
The last time I checked, though, as you rightly said, it was in the southeastern Caribbean, headed for places like Anguilla and Barbados.
Okay.
That kind of.
Well, our prayers with you, and we'll be monitoring this to our friends in the Eastern Caribbean. Just batten down and shutter down and so on. You have trees to cut, Big A?
If I have what?
Trees to cut in your yard and so on. And it's not just for this one. It is like we're
only a cherry tree.
Only a cherry. You have cherry tree up there?
Yeah.
Like real cherry tree?
Yes.
We're coming up with the past, All right, cherry tree. I'm not going down the road of a cherry tree.
Oh, so you were thinking that I was.
I don't want
saying something else.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about cherry trees. Exactly, because I don't know if it's a metaphor or if it's a cherry. And I read it because it is 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning. Amen.
A cherry tree in my front yard.
In your front yard, Big A. I'm gonna move from that. And let us talk. You have a cherry tree in your front yard.
I will take a picture and show you tomorrow.
All right, then I look forward to that. Please, when you go home, you take care and send it on your back. It is very important because I'm having all kinds of stuff here. So, I know you're going into the gospel show, so I want to ask you quickly about Tony Evans. The pastor was stepped down. You don't hear about him?
Pastor?
That American pastor who stepped down and said it is because of past sins. But him stepped down, this mega... All right, so listen, me and you talk about him next week when you have more information. Because I want to have the conversation about this pastor who is giving me the vibes of Swaggart. You remember Swaggart?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Who was caught in a place of ill repute.
There you go. It giving me, because when you're stepping on the past and you're saying it is for past sins, then God don't forgive sins anymore? Do you have to step down for past sins?
No, so... You never have no past sins when they started to be...
and that is a better question. So that is very weird. And somebody who's as wealthy as him and a mega church, I mean, it is very strange.
Very strange, but let me tell you something. Maybe he might have enough money.
Oh. And so
he
past
can ride
sins.
off into the sunset.
So past sins. Anyway... We're making way for the big day inside of the Sunday sunshine, getting ready for Sumfest and all of that that's happening in this holiday at summertime. So take it easy. What good? Tell him how they want. How they see you next week, inshallah. The big day is up next with the Sunday sunshine.